Welcome back to Redacted.
Yes, Redacted.
The SCP podcast about SCP things. Corey looks very different today.
Yeah. He grew a lot of facial hair. And
this is Joe.
Hair.
So this is Joe. For
I'm
people
Joe.
that don't know, this is Joe, my bro.
I'm usually behind the camera.
Yeah, he's usually over there.
There.
We thought Corey just didn't have enough beard to be on camera anymore.
Yeah, we kicked him out.
No, he is out of town. So Joe's filling in, and he's going to do great.
I hope so.
What are we talking about today, Joe?
SCPs that'll make your brain hurt.
My brain's hurting already, Joe.
Well, that's probably like dehydration or something.
Need coffee. Look at that beautiful mug.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Sure, it gets completely lost in front of your shirt.
In front of my shirt that is matching. And the reason that matches is because it's from the same store, our SCP merch store. Go check it out. It's got great stuff. There's more shirts than this. This isn't the only shirt. There's another one.
Yeah, there's two of them.
There's two of them that are SCP related. All right. So SCPs that will make your brain hurt. Now, there's two ways that we can look at this, Joe.
Yes, there are two. And I thought of both of them.
Yeah.
And researched both of them.
I think we both did because I thought, okay, well, I could go the direction of it's an SCP that physically makes your brain hurt.
Right.
And then there's SCPs that make your brain hurt because they're so difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Which is probably
which are very few for me. I understand most of them.
We got big boy brains, so we're pretty, and we know SCP. We know
how they work.
That said, in research for this one, I found some that just confused the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, I found one that I was just like, I literally had to research. Somebody had to explain it to me. Like, it just did not make sense on paper.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, there's definitely one for me as well. So why don't you start us off? An SCP that makes your brain hurt.
All right. So this is a more literal SCP that'll make your brain hurt, but it's SCP-632, Intrusive Arachnid Thoughts.
Intrusive Arachnid Thoughts. That's a difficult one to say.
Intrusive Arachnid Thoughts. Yeah. A little bit difficult. Essentially what it is it's a species of spider that are little like flesh nuggets. And inside is like brain matter. And so you're like, oh, that's weird. And if you ever come into contact with them, they start to you start thinking about them.
Right.
Like obsessively. And then you'll feel like silk on your skin. Like, ugh, silk. And you'll feel like them crawling around on you. So it's like a very natural like reaction to
bugs in general.
Yeah, bugs in general. And it's playing on that idea that like as you're thinking about it, it's like, yeah, the more you think about it, the more it develops in your brain. And what happens is as you get further away from exposure, more of your brain turns to these like spiders. Like they just start forming inside your brain, and it's like every thought you have of it, it's like there's another one. There's another one. Until eventually it wears down the lining of your skull until they like pop out, or to like relieve the pressure, you're like hurting yourself, so you get like endorphins to like relieve the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you just like break your skull open and they all pour out, and then they go make more intrusive arachnid thoughts.
So it's kind of like when methods say there's bees in my teeth, but there's spiders in my brain.
Yes, spiders in my brain. There's spiders in my brain.
There's spiders in my brain. Okay, so since you went more literal, I'll give you one that's a little bit more of a thinker. One that's like it's very difficult for me to grasp this one. I think I understand.
We'll
honest,
understand it together.
Yeah. So SCP-1383. Now I forget the name of it. It's a very long name. You have it written up over here.
Partially functioning petriphorical torment chamber.
Yes. Partially functioning. I think it's
Pataphorical
torment chamber. So people in the comments, if you know this one and if I'm explaining this wrong, let me know, because even when I read like SCP Explained and like several people that were trying to explain it, they all had slightly different explanations. So I think a little bit's open for interpretation, but this is the general gist. There's a motel, and there's an entity that's inside the motel.
Okay.
If you stay at the hotel, you become contaminated. Even though there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it as when you go to the hotel, you stay in your room. You can physically leave the room, but conceptually, mentally, you always feel like you're trapped inside the motel still.
Kind of sounds like 1408, that Stephen King movie thing.
A little bit. I think if you look at it that way, where you can physically leave, but conceptually you're still trapped there, that's kind of what it's most like.
Yeah.
That's one sort of explanation. There's an entity there, and they know this because they sent a D-class in and they retrieved him, and they had him describe the room. He described this floating orb, which is presumably this entity that's causing the conceptual trapping, if you will. And then even though the room was empty, he described it as it was full of people. So like anyone that's ever stayed at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
However, other people interpreted it the opposite way, where all those people that stay at the hotel are physically still there, but there's kind of like a mental conceptual projection that the entity sends back out into the world.
And
so
I like that.
Yeah. So, cause everyone out in the world and everything, and you're talking to these people, they're always just like, I'm trapped in the room. I'm trapped in the room. I'm still in the room. You know, they're interviewing the D class and they're like, where are we are right now? I'm like, I'm in the room.
Yeah.
So, I think that's kind of the scarier
for sure,
of the two. And then there's an addendum on it that, basically, I forget how it got destroyed, but a D class was sent back in, and the orb was destroyed, and everyone inside, like a lot of them were dead now, and like we're trying to break the walls, trying to escape because of the orb being destroyed. It was almost like they're now more aware of their situation. Like I don't know. I didn't understand that part, but
that's when your brain started to hurt.
That's when it really started to hurt. But you know, it's a little open for interpretation from what I understand. But yeah, it is a torment chamber because essentially it's like a little bit of a Hotel California situation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's also a reference point.
But you know, that one was more like hell. But you know, yeah, this one either you're physically still trapped there and it like casts out a projection, or
maybe even a doppelganger
even, or you know, it's a more literal one where you can physically leave, but you always feel like you're trapped in the room. But that was a weird one.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I like when there's more you can interpret, like the intrusive arachnid thoughts. It's very literal.
Right.
Like there's no way you're reading it and being like, well, this could be it. Like it's a little bit straightforward. And I like when SCPs are open to interpretation.
Yeah. Well, there's kind of a little bit of like, if SCPs are open to interpretation, that it almost in universe means like the researchers themselves don't fully understand it,
which, you know,
which is kind of nice.
Brings you in line with them.
Right.
But yeah, speaking of inside and outside and going in and outside.
I know exactly where you're going. And this one's maybe one of the biggest doozies.
So SCP-2719 or 2719, 2719.
I think different people say it different ways.
It's always interesting because we have series and we have to like keep it consistent. So we always say like 2719.
Right.
But then my brain like, let's make it 27.
I feel like in universe, people would say it differently as well.
Oh, yeah.
Too, you know, like it.
I bet there's memos that the like 05 council sends out.
Right.
Like, guys, you got to be saying it this way.
Right. Yeah, I just think because my dad's in the military or was in the military, I kind of feel like they would lean more to that side, you know, where like, you know, like 053 or whatever they'd call it, like 053. But who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's some researchers that come in there and it's like 053, you know?
Yeah. 53
or just 53 maybe even, you know, but anyways
2719 inside is a very sparse entry. Essentially it's an abstract metaphysical construct pointer.
Oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah, you know, it's only abstract and metaphysical.
That tells you everything you need to know.
So concepts acted upon SCP-2719 will either go or become inside.
Okay.
And it only works kind of on people like things that are intelligent, as far as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So like they tested a bunch of things and you can either go inside or become inside. And essentially what I think that means, or what the person who explained it to me think it means, it's that's it. Like that's all the information you're given on the actual entry, is that the entire concept of inside becomes whatever it assigns. So when they assigned SCP-682 and it became inside, it became the concept of inside. It's weird. It's very hard to envision.
Yeah.
You know,
I tried to read this one as well. And, it kind of just seemed like the reason it's an SCP and not, what?
Yeah.
They're like, what I understood is why it was an SCP is that it actually makes things like it can actually change reality.
Yeah, it's kind of acting on all of reality,
right?
And it seems that by the end of their testing, that the 05 Council figures out that you can become transcendent from it when you're assigned inside. So they became inside and then attained some sort of omnipotence, I guess, from that.
Right.
And that kind of begs the question of like, what is inside? Is that like, what is inside?
Well, we don't know. We don't know anything. Yeah.
And it's kind of like a programming type language type thing where it's like assign value inside to blah, blah, blah. And it's just a really strange thing to kind of parse out because you're just constantly having to stop and think, yeah, but what is inside? Like, what do what's the difference between becoming inside and going inside?
Right.
Because, you know, they do that with 682. It becomes inside. It went inside. Like, I think they were trying to like kill it by just like sending it inside itself. But I assume that by the end it went outside, so it had to have not worked.
Right.
Because 682, you know.
Yeah.
But
He's got plot armor.
he's got plot armor, fandom armor.
Yeah, fandom armor.
Super Saiyan 3 armor.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a very, very strange one because, you know, at its premise, it's just something that assigns a value, like it makes a physical reality altering value to a abstract conceptual idea.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but what are the ramifications of that? And we really don't know.
Right.
It's really not expressed. So that's definitely one that, good piece of writing. It's more theoretical and like I could see why it's not very popular.
Yeah. I looked through the discussion and, I think they called it a format screw in the discussion, which I assume would just mean that somebody takes the format and is just like, yeah, let's throw that out the window. And the entry is just essentially a testing log.
Right.
And then you have to like kind of envision it. That's where it hurts your brain.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the cool things about SCPs though, is that some of the SCPs are just so abstract.
Yeah.
And then other ones are just so literal. That there's a nice, whatever kind of horror or supernatural thing you're into, you can find something.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's got a lot of appeal to a lot of different people.
I like thinkers, but I don't like things I don't understand.
I like the cool monsters.
I like the monsters. I like the plague doctors. No, I'm plague doctor's fine. Well, my next one, I'll go a little more basic now. Again, we've had a couple stumpers. This one's more, it literally makes your brain hurt. Although I guess it could also make your brain hurt because of all of the new information, you know. So, one of the earliest SCPs, SCP-028.
Oh, real old school.
That one is knowledge. And the idea about this is that I think they said it was 2 or 3 meters. It's not very big. But there's essentially a cube of space. Not a very large cube, like probably this size or meters. How big are meters? I don't even know. Meters are,
I'm not Canadian.
3 feet. I don't know. Anyways, it's just enough that like a human person could fit fully inside of it.
Okay.
And it exists in northern Michigan. So this cube is in northern Michigan. I think they said it was in like a farmhouse or something. But the physical space that the cube exists in doesn't matter. You know what? It doesn't matter if there's other objects in it or like if it's inside a barn, outside a barn, whatever. It's just it's locked, this invisible cube of space.
Mm-hmm.
If you enter said cube, you gain a random amount of knowledge in a topic that you didn't know before. And they list a few examples. Some are like very, like, that's a great thing to know. And then other things, it's like, that's completely useless. So the reason they found out about it is because, I think they said it was a miner. So maybe it wasn't a farmhouse. Maybe it was like a mine or something. Yeah. A miner in northern Michigan put in this patent for this cold fusion reactor, and he had no like academic history or anything. And he said that just one day it just came to him out of the blue. The entire idea for this cold fusion reactor. And they actually mentioned that they used the cold fusion reactor to contain a different SCP. But that's what made him kind of
noticed.
research this thing. But some of the other ones from their testing have been like someone learned the knowledge, like every number in the phone book for New York City in 1998. Pretty useless.
Pretty useless.
Someone learned how to convert a normal like car engine to run off of blood instead of gasoline.
Well, if you really think about it, gasoline is dinosaur blood.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So maybe if it was a little bit fresher, it would work better.
Yeah. And they did state that it's more fuel efficient than gasoline. So
I think they're onto something.
There might be onto something. I mean, every day, if you just pop in your IV and drive to work, pretty smart.
I'm sure it'll definitely get a lot of mileage per liter.
But yeah, I mean, again, not super useful, but there's some other examples, and they kind of vary from like its usefulness. But yeah, every time you step into the cube, you gain like a random.
So you can go in it multiple times.
You can go in multiple times, but this is where the brain hurt part comes in. Every time you go back in, you still gain knowledge, but you get like really, really intense mental pain, like really sharp, pointed headaches. And they kind of imply that it's not something that goes away. So I don't think that's kind of why they haven't had multiple people going in and out. Although knowing the SCP,
they're like, hey, D class.
Yeah, at some point they're just going to be like, let's go in 100 times. See what happens.
They'll know all the years of phone books.
Yeah. So that's where like it actually physically makes your brain hurt, but also just makes you think in general, because it is a new wealth of knowledge, although it may be useful or may not be useful.
Interesting.
But that's kind of a very old school SCP where it's just like, it's this thing, it does this, and then this was what happens. That was kind of the way most original SCPs were written.
Yeah. Nowadays,
to their benefit.
That would be like that cube would be the psychic resonance of somebody who died there, and all their knowledge has been imparted upon whoever walks through it.
And it'd have like 8 addendums, and there's like new.
It was Carl. We found out who it was, and it was Carl.
Yeah, the writing of SCP is like become a lot more expanded. I mean, there's still some basic ones here and there.
Yeah, and those are always fun. It's good that they change it up.
Yeah,
because like you said, people want different things from SCP,
right?
And there's something for everyone.
Yeah, it really depends on the SCP though. Like, if they grab me right away from the beginning of the description or the containment procedures, because some of the ones I open up and it's just like a wall of text and they don't like immediately grab me, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to read through this whole thing. And sometimes that's not good, because sometimes if you push your way through it, you're like, oh wow, this is really awesome. But there's a big part of me definitely likes ones that,
they're more concise.
Right. Just because something's longer doesn't mean it's better.
Right.
But anyways,
I got one that's a little bit more literal. It's SCP-3513, the brain that ate itself.
Oh, well, that seems very literal.
Yeah. It's going to make your brain hurt.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. So again, it's a region of space, right?
Okay.
In Rocky Crest, Namibia, in which you enter it and like, you're just like, okay, I went through it. But then 4 to 6 months later, a beak will like form in your skull and will just slowly eat your brain.
Nice.
And it's it's straightforward in that regard, where it's like it'll just keep eating your brain. But like part of the scary part is it's like it takes 4 to 6 months to actually get going.
Right.
Start chomping at the brain. And then it's like you go to the doctor and they're just like, okay, well, what do I know it could be? And they misdiagnose you, and they can't catch it because it's like,
do they mention anything like about where in the brain it starts?
Where?
Or like what part of the brain it eats? Because I was just thinking, like, if that beak was smart, it goes right for the part that feels pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I guess you would know immediately then, like,
yeah,
can't feel anything.
I guess it just sort of
just
wherever.
burrows in, just wherever.
It's just like, okay, this is a nice little bit of tasty brain.
Little nook.
Yeah, but then of course, in classic Foundation fashion, they needed to figure out, well, where does all that brain go?
Right.
So they, tested some D-class people, put a little camera, a little GPS chip. And it's weird because it doesn't seem to actually go anywhere, because like it creates like a portal, and they'll feed the camera through the portal, and it'll just wind up in like someone else's brain, and they'll just be dead because they have a camera in the brain. But it doesn't really like seem like that's where the brain tissue is going.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a real puzzler.
Just beak to beak to beak.
Yeah, I'd assume so.
Maybe it's like all these beaks are existing like concurrently,
right.
And it's just it's like a black hole almost. And yeah.
But like also it doesn't always go to another person's brain. Like they found it go to like a meat processing plant, where it was just went into like some cow bits. And it's like, what is up with this? Like, what's its end game?
Yeah, what's the goal here?
It's
just to eat brains, man.
I guess so.
It's got that zombie mentality.
Yeah. Eventually they just gave up and was just like, all right, we're going to build a box around this space and no one go in.
Yeah.
Like
there's no more brain eating.
Yeah. And then it's safe now because it's not going to escape.
I mean, you got to commend the SCP. They don't do it a lot when they're just like, you know what, not worth experimenting anymore. Like, but every once in a while you'll get an SCP that's like, yeah, we're just going to put it in a box and no one's going to get hurt from it anymore. And we'll just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do something nice for us.
Yeah. Every once in a while, they're not just like, oh, let's feed it endless D-class to glean tiny new nuggets of information.
Knowledge.
Yeah. I've kind of always thought that, and there probably is someone who's thought of this and like has theories about it already. If not like actually addressed it in an SCP, but there's so many D-class that need to die in these. It's not like, like if it's just like 10 or even like 100 people, you could probably, just that could be like death row inmates from around the world or whatever. But, we're talking like thousands
every year.
Yeah. And all the amnestics that they need, they have to feed people. And this is a great segue to SCP-3000, which is going to be my next one. So they must be getting D-class, like not from just one reality, but like they're pulling them from.
Well, it's a worldwide organization, so they're probably getting them from all around the world at least.
Yeah.
But still,
it just seems like a lot of people that that no one would notice. Like a lot.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're making clones of them.
Oh, that's true too. I didn't think about that.
You know, make a clone of some death row inmate.
Right. Just clone, 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 clone.
Keep going.
Yeah,
Keep going into the mouth.
That's true. They do have the cloning tree. I'm sure there's other cloning SCPs as well.
Oh, yeah.
There's gotta be.
It's like very common trope. So,
yeah. Anyway, so my perfect segue into SCP-3000. That is one of my favorite SCPs. Super well written, really cool idea. It's Anantashisha. I think I'm pronouncing that. Anantashisha.
Yeah. That's that big snake thing.
The big eel thing. Yeah. So essentially, it's Anantashisha in like the Hindi religion is the snake
that eats the world.
That eat,
right?
I think it's the snake that Vishnu sits upon, or
and
it eats the world. Yeah, I think it's the destroyer of the world as well. Yeah.
Vishnu gets all the credit, but Anantashisha does all the work.
But anyway, and people correct us if we really butchered that.
Probably.
Yeah. But in the SCP land, it's SCP-3000, and it's this gigantic, I guess you could kind of think of it as like a water snake, but I think it's more eel-like.
Yeah.
And they describe it as 600 to 900 kilometers long. So that's several hundred miles in America measurements. And I remember looking it up one time. We're here in Austin, Texas, and it was basically approximately the length from Austin, Texas to the East Coast in Georgia. That's
pretty long.
That's roughly how big it is.
But you could believe something that big's in the ocean. Like,
right.
It's a pretty big place, that ocean.
Yeah. And it's in basically the deepest, darkest part of the Indian Ocean.
Is the Mariana Trench in there? I think it is.
Yes. Or like right between the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. It's gigantic. It barely moves. They kind of say it sways, but that's more like it's moving with the current. The only time it like physically moves is its head when it eats people. And what they discovered is that it has a few different kind of supernatural properties. Besides it being gigantic and essentially immortal, if you are within sort of an undefined amount a distance to it, you become spacey, you start having headaches and migraines, you start losing your memory, and then if you directly see it, you really start losing a lot of your memory and focus, and you just kind of start losing it. And that's mostly because of this black ooze that it secretes. And I guess it's just general aura. But it only secretes the ooze after it feeds on someone. So if you get within a certain distance, it kind of hypnotizes you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It'll consume you and then secrete this black ooze. The Foundation found out that the black ooze is basically the world's best amnestic. They call it compound Y909. I'm sure they have to do some kind of alteration with it, but
yeah, they probably water it down a bit.
Yeah.
Get more bang for their buck.
But it's so much better than the traditional amnestics that
conking people on the head.
is bad.
Kong.
That they used to use, and it doesn't have nearly as many side effects. They describe it where like the old amnestics would cause all this like sickness and
it's all natural.
Yeah, it's all natural. And headaches and stuff, and that this one, they can be a lot more precise about like what memories they can wipe and whatnot. But that's one that physically makes your brain hurt when you're near it. But it has all these kind of cool mind altering abilities. And this might just be like a weird, like personal thing with me. It's not just SCP-3000, but in all of mythology, I really love when there's like really giant things that don't really use their size.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of just a cool element, because it would be one thing if they're just like, it was more like SCP-169 Leviathan.
Yeah.
And just like, oh, it's an SCP because it's just so gigantic, and that's
Right.
cool.
Yeah. Kaiju are cool.
Kaiju are awesome. But this one, it's like, it could be like a world ender just on its size alone, but it's got all these other mental abilities, and that's really what it uses,
Well, it kind of sounds like kind of like a Cthulhu type thing where,
almost, yeah.
You look at it and you lose your mind, and it's like that's more terrifying than a giant monster, especially like if you could try and envision it, of like you're swimming, you come across this giant thing and you're just like, ah, and then you just forget, like, ever seeing it. But like in the deepest recesses of your brain, you probably a little bit more afraid of giant eels.
Yeah. But the people that, research it and stuff, it's really heartbreaking. We did a animation on it. Go watch it. It's one of our better ones, I think. But a lot of they talk about it, they know because they hear from other people and they see like the evidence that they have family members and whatnot, but they've completely forgotten all the memories about them. And, they don't have any emotional attachment to them anymore. And that would be just the worst.
Yeah, that would be.
You're just like, well, this is my brother, I guess. And, wish I would have remembered him.
Yeah, I wish so too.
That's a really cool SCP. 3000. And I don't know if you know this, Joe, but a lot of the like 3000, 2000, 4000, whatever, they're like contest winners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one won, and it was a joint, one of the few that are like joint writing projects.
Yeah.
I think there's like 3 authors on that one. So
yeah,
good job to those 3 authors.
Congrats.
Dejactus is one of them. Dejactus. I don't know how you pronounce that. Tell me.
I don't know how to pronounce anything.
That's true.
All right. I think I got one more. This one, it's not the most thinky hurty one, but the more you kind of think about it and the way it kind of relates to like the real world phenomenon that I'll get to, it kind of becomes more interesting.
Right.
And I don't know, I really like this one. It's SCP-2747, as above, so below, or as below, so above.
Okay.
And essentially it's a phenomenon where you'll find like a bunch of reviews of like a movie or a show or an album that doesn't exist. But people will discuss it as if it existed very, very straightforwardly. Like they won't be like, oh guys, I think I remember this. You know, it's not like a Candle Cove type situation where everyone's like, yeah, I think I remember it. It's like, no, they're talking very point blankly about something. Like there's reviews for like a fictional Radiohead album, or I think there's a few different ones, but essentially, yeah, it's this idea that you know, there's lost media that people remember and talked about, but then don't quite remember. And what's really cool about it, I think, is that towards the end, they're like, go to Appendix B. We figured it out. we gotta stop this. And then you go to Appendix B and it's like data lost. And it's like covering its own tracks. So it's strange because it seems like it's more than just, you know, these things, you know, it's more than just the lost media objects. It's kind of insidious in a way.
Okay.
And then you read some of the stuff that like it created, and like one of them's like a fantasy horror game, whatever, in which it kind of reads like a creepypasta where it's like, you know, you play the game and then it gets unbeatable and it's like trying to destroy you. And
if you die in the game, you die in real life.
I don't think that happens, but it's interesting. And a lot of the stuff kind of like the first like, I think it's a short story about this person who's going down a river and they're going to the Black Mountains or whatever, the Black Horned Mountain, and they're going down the river and then they die in the river without ever getting closer. So it kind of seems like that's like an allegory for the actual SCP, that like you'll never understand this. You'll never get to the end of the river or the mountains.
Right.
It's just like an impossible quest.
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
Not like a whole world is at stake kind of SCP, but it's nice to not have those sort of ones.
Well, it could be. You never know, because
I guess that's true.
We don't know what's happening really with it. Yeah, because I think they say they upgraded it to Keter, and we're like, all right, guys, we gotta get this locked down, and then they kind of forgot what they found out. But you know, it's like that Mandela effect, you know, that people keep talking about.
Yeah.
Which is also a very weird brain hurty thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, no, guys, I totally remember this movie. I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. And like, I don't know, that weirds me out, is when like, this is obviously very much like tipping its hat to that sort of phenomenon of people and the Mandela effect.
I've definitely had moments like that where I don't think I misremember movies completely, but I think there's like 2 or 3 like similar movies that I watched a long time ago. They're like some horrible B movie, and then my mind sort of makes them like one film. That definitely has happened to me before.
That definitely has happened to me as well. I remember, I think it also has to do with dreams. Like when you're a kid and you have like a really vivid dream, that kind of sticks with you.
Right.
And then as you get older, like that dream was probably a movie or something, right?
Yeah.
And you try and find it and it's like, oh, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like I remember very vividly, I watched like Tremors and Starship Troopers and all those types of movies, and they sort of melded into this one idea in my head. And then when I went back to watch it, I'm like, this doesn't have that scene that I'm thinking of.
Right.
But yeah, it's just human memory is kind of faulty.
Plus, you and me watch so many movies. you know.
Well, I certainly do.
Okay, I have rookie numbers compared to you, but compared to the average person,
Yes, you're above average.
I'm definitely above average.
You're not a cinephile like me.
I would almost argue I'm a cinephile. You're just like a cine sadist.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be days where I'm just like, okay, that was a fun movie. Now time for 3 more.
Yeah. The difference between you and me is like, I'll pretty much watch anything that I have the hopes that I'll enjoy it. You'll know going into a movie that you're not going to enjoy it, but you're like, I have to know so I can tell people how much I don't enjoy it. I can review about it.
Yes.
So that's the defining feature there.
It is a defining feature. That's why I watched Jack Black's Gulliver's Travels movie. And let me tell you guys, don't watch it. It's not good.
Speaking of bad viewing experiences,
Yeah.
my last SCP is Bobble the Clown.
Bobble the Clown.
So for those who don't know, it's a fairly popular SCP.
Yeah, I think people know about it.
It's cool premise. And it's a very short article as well. So Bobble the Clown is a show. It's very much like Candle Cove or Cragglewood Park, where it's sort of like a shared experience among children. Except this one is more like physically based. So like Candle Cove from Creepypasta and Cragglewood Park, they only know about it because of the past experiences. They can't find any evidence of it.
It's all in their head.
Right.
Like the Mandela effect.
Right. Bobble is an actual show. Bobble the Clown is a show. Stars a clown, and it's usually set, I should say, in different locations because he's constantly moving around. And every episode is like him learning a new activity or doing a new project or something. But it always kind of gets twisted into this perverse, violent thing. So, Bobble learns how to cook, or Bobble goes to the kitchen, or whatever the episode's called. He kind of teaches like murder and cannibalism. Only children can view it. I think they said under 10 can view it. I forget. I'd have to double check the age. But if you're over the certain age, if you're subjected to it, essentially you get a sharp headache, which is why your brain hurts.
Oh.
You get a sharp headache and then you pass out from the pain. And then you black out for the duration of the episode. And then once it's over, you wake back up.
Mm-hmm.
But, for the kids that can watch it, they're subjected to the entire episode. But the Foundation now has actually been able to, they have Epsilon Beta 3 protocol or something like that, where they've successfully been able to block all episodes from him from going to the public.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But, he aired for years, like classic SCP. They redact the exact years, but they made it seem like decades.
Yeah. Well, he's doing like local TV broadcasts, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's like nationwide. It might be like regional or something, but, it wasn't. I don't think it was like broad scale, national or worldwide or anything. But still, he was affecting a lot of people, and even the children. It's not just that they are subjected to the violence and the, whatever he was teaching. If you have it, even for the kids, if they had increased exposure to it, so they watch multiple episodes, they even start having extreme like mental pain and schizophrenia and all these psychological issues. So Hurt your brain,
Yeah.
regardless.
I'm watching it. Too much TV.
Too much
Go
TV.
outside and play in the
Yeah. Play
Forest.
video games.
I don't know
Don't
if
watch TV. Play video games.
Yeah, it's more healthy.
More healthy because you're mentally engaged.
Yeah, I guess your level of engagement with a TV show is however much you want.
Yeah. If they're TV shows that are thinkers like some of these SCPs,
Yeah,
now you're really engaged.
like a good Star Trek episode.
Right. Like a really good Star Trek episode. But that's it. Those are my SCPs that make your brain hurt.
So I'll ask you this: which one do you think of all the ones we talked about makes your brain hurt the most?
Probably Inside.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd have to agree. It's just abstract enough that like you're forced to think about it. Like there's no way you can read it and be like, oh, okay.
right.
Like you have to be like, what did I read? How does this make sense?
Mhm.
And you got to think it through, and it's a tough thinker.
Yeah. No, the one that would physically make my brain hurt the most, maybe the beak one.
Yeah. It would really hurt.
That would physically very hurt my brain.
I think the intrusive arachnid thoughts.
Yeah, that one's pretty
That
good too.
one would hurt probably a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Next episode of Redacted in the books.
Boom.
This is Joe. I'm Kay.
Yep.
Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Let's keep the train rolling. Let's say comment ding dong.
Yeah. Ding dong.
Comment ding dong if you watched the whole episode. Check out our merch store. We got these wonderful cups. We got this wonderful t-shirt. Next episode, I'll be wearing the other SCP t-shirt.
Whoa.
Oh my God. Wow. And Joe will be wearing another Hawaiian shirt probably.
Yeah, that'll be my thing. You can wear all this the store stuff, and I'll wear these luscious tropical shirts.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.